Hi friends, welcome to Raising Lifelong Learners. I'm your host, Colleen Kessler, and this is the podcast where I encourage you to trust yourself and your differently wired kiddos as you help cultivate their curiosity, encourage them to discover the world around them, embrace who they are wired to be, all while helping them discover their passions, interests, and raise them to become the amazing adults they're meant to be. Hey, welcome back. This is episode 296. Today we are talking all about sensory diets, what that means, how to create them, and how to help your kiddos out when they need to regulate their bodies and start talking about and building a toolbox that can help them. This is a brand new series. Over the last 5 weeks on this show, we have been talking about executive function skills, and we have had a whole series on EF skills. So if you need to go back to that, go check out the last 5 episodes, and we are just starting a brand new series today. So for this episode, and then 4 more after this, we are going to talk all about sensory needs, especially sensory needs at different places. So today we're talking all about what sensory needs are, what a sensory diet really is, and how to implement it in your home and use it to your advantage and to help your kiddos use it to regulate themselves. Along the next couple of weeks and throughout the series, we're going to talk about sensory needs in different places, like co-op and church and groups. We're going to talk about when clothes are too itchy or uncomfortable, when your kids need movement on rainy days and what to do about that, and then eating issues, textures, and struggles with eating. So make sure if you don't already subscribe, you take some time to subscribe now so you don't miss a single episode. Before we begin, I want to give a special shout out and thanks to CTC Math for sponsoring us and supporting this podcast. If you need a math program, they're truly amazing. So check them out at ctcmath.com. All right, let's get on with today's episode. Hey there, welcome back. I'm so glad that you are here. Okay, so over the last month or so, we have had an entire series all about executive function struggles. And if you missed that series, definitely go back and check it out. And on the show notes pages for any of those episodes, you can download your free executive function quick start guide. So make sure you check that out because those episodes were so full of resources and tips and tricks, and it just built this huge toolbox for anybody who is listening or anybody who have kiddos who have executive function struggles. For the next several weeks, 5 episodes in a row here, we are going to talk specifically about sensory struggles. And we are going to build a toolbox of resources for supporting sensory challenges at home, out in the world, and in all the different places where our kids who are differently wired, neurodivergent, gifted, twice exceptional, maybe have ADHD or sensory processing disorder or any other challenges that affect their sensory needs can find themselves, and we're going to build that toolbox so they can thrive. In fact, I've put together a home sensory diet planning guide for you so that you can use it to implement all the different things that you're going to learn in today's episode and the next several episodes in a row. So make sure you go over to the show notes and download that when you get a chance. Okay, so I bet your kids are like mine, and oftentimes you find them bouncing off the walls at 10 a.m., melting down at 2 p.m., and your homeschool is out of control and you feel like you need to just take them to a gym and let them figure everything out for themselves and run around. Really what you need is a plan and a rhythm. Today we're going to start building a simple and safe sensory menu that you can do in any space and with any of the things that you already have at home. And it doesn't matter how much practice you've had with it. It's a great way to get started trying to meet the needs of your kids in the different sensory areas that they have. Now, I'm going to say, as you're starting to test out some of these things, keep an eye on your kiddo. Just like I talk about throughout the episodes in the past, whatever, 295 other episodes that we've had of the Raising Lifelong Learners podcast, it's important to be a student of your child. And so if you note that your kids are having particular difficulty in specific areas, it may be worth scheduling an appointment with an occupational therapist or their pediatrician just to see if there's other things going on, particularly if you're using calming techniques and they seem to be having the opposite effect on them. It alerts them, or they're getting like dizzy, or they have headaches, or anything that doesn't seem like it should be happening based on what you're doing with them. But test some things out too, and go over to the show notes for this episode and click on some of the resources so you can read more about sensory needs. A really great book that I read when we were first diagnosing Logan, 10, 11 years ago now, with sensory processing disorder, was The Out of Sync Child. And I have that linked over on the show notes. And then a book that I still use at home regularly is The Out of Sync Child Has Fun. It is the companion book to The Out of Sync Child, and it's filled with lots and lots and lots of different activities and tasks you can do at home. And it's broken down by the different sensory needs and whether your kids need input or they have an aversion to those different sensory needs. And so it's really easy to use those activities to tailor your own sensory diet for your kids and have a whole menu of things to choose from. But we're going to start doing that today. Okay, so first of all, what is a sensory diet? A sensory diet is planned input that helps a nervous system feel just right. So your kiddos are ready for learning, they're ready to focus, they're ready to do the things that they need to do. What a sensory diet is not, what these sensory suggestions and tools are not, they are not rewards or punishment. So some of them are going to sound like a lot of fun. And we're not doing these activities to reward our kids for good behavior or punish our kids for bad behavior. We're using these to get our kids so that their nervous systems are regulated and they're ready to go and they're ready to learn or they're ready to do what they need to do for the day. So in simple, plain language, we're going to be talking about 5 different sensory systems. The first one is the proprioceptive system. And when we're working on the proprioceptive system, we're working with our joints and our muscles and heavy work. This is really good to help our kids with organizing and calming and focus. And we'll talk more about examples of what the heavy work can look like and what we can do later on in the episode. Right now, we're just kind of breaking down the different systems. So that's proprioceptive. The second system is vestibular. The vestibular system is the system that's attributed to movement and like inner ear workings. It causes alerting behaviors. We need to be careful with this one because a lot of kids are very sensitive in their vestibular system, especially if they've got some inner ear challenges or they get dizzy regularly. And sometimes they can become too alert and it can hype kids up. So you want to use this sparingly and you want to really, really know your kids when you're using activities that activate the vestibular system. The third system is tactile, and this is touch. Touch and tactile systems can be soothing or alerting depending on the texture and depending on the needs of your kids. Oral motor is the fourth system. This is like the chew and suck and blow motions. This can be really regulating for kids. It's great for transitions. It's good for calming. And we'll talk about different things you can do for that. And then auditory and visual environment. That's the fifth system. So this is like background noise, light, clutter. Here's the thing, though, I want you to really, really remember as we go through this episode and we talk about different tools that can help your kids out. Your child isn't too much. They're not a problem. Their body is asking for a signal or giving you a signal. We are going to work to give clean signals on purpose to our kids so that their bodies can react, and then teach them to notice what works, to notice what calms them down, what helps them focus, what gives them the resources that they need to be successful in regulation. Again, if any of the activities that you try, any of the activities I suggest, any of the activities you read about in the Out of Sync Child or the out of sync child has fun, become too much for your kiddos, they show distress or dizziness or pain or nausea, talk to your pediatrician, get them in with an occupational therapist, because if their sensory systems really need regulation that's beyond what you can do at home, an occupational therapist is invaluable. You can check out my friend Sarah. She's been on the podcast numerous times. Sarah is the homeschool OT at thehomeschoolot.com, and I'll link some of her past episodes here. She also has her own podcast called The OT Is In. And if you're a member of the Learners Lab, one of the biggest perks of the lab is that we do some group coaching in there. And Sarah comes in once a month and answers your occupational therapy related questions. So make sure if you're in the lab, you're taking advantage of that Q&A because it's there for you. Pay Sarah to come in once a month to talk to you about all your kids' sensory needs. So make sure you're using that resource. And if you're not a member of the Learners Lab, please give it a try. This is a community full of people who understand you and understand your kiddo. We are there to help you make your life better so you can thrive in your parenting and your homeschooling. There's stuff for you as a parent and for your kids as well. It's for the whole family. Okay, the other thing that I want you to remember as you're learning about the sensory system is avoid force, especially when you're using deep pressure or heavy work. This should all be child-led. It should feel good to your kids. They need to control the intensity and they need to be able to say stop when it's time to stop. Okay, when we are thinking about setting up a sensory space or a place that we could do sensory activities at home, we get sometimes overwhelmed with thinking like we need a whole room dedicated to it or whatever. We really don't. It would be great if you have the opportunity and you can clear kind of like a 6 foot by 6 foot area, like removing tripping hazards or things like that. If you can't, do the best that you can. When Logan was first identified with sensory processing disorder, we lived in a 970 square foot house. I am not joking. Our family of 6 with a toddler, a preschooler, an elementary schooler, and a middle schooler, and a husband and a wife, and a dog, and several turtles, all lived in 970 square feet. We had at the time, at the very beginning of our time there, an unfinished attic and an unfinished basement and 2 bedrooms and 1 bath and a living room / family room and a kitchen. That was it. The kids had a playroom area in a portion of the unfinished basement, but the unfinished basement was like storage and laundry and dark, and nobody really wanted to play down there very often, so we would do the best that we could. And then the attic was just a disaster. Before we moved out, we had finished the attic. Before we sold the house, we had finished the attic, and it was up to 1,400 square feet, but it took a long time to get there. So you make do with what you have. We used a lot of outside time. We didn't have coffee tables, so we had a little bit of space between the couch and like the bookshelf where our television sat. And we used Christmas and birthdays to purchase toys and activities that could double as occupational therapy play. I'll link to some of the things that we have in our house because we still have some crash pads and some gym mats and we have a spinning top that my kids loved, a disc swing, trampoline, mini trampoline. So I can link to some of the things that we've used and purchased in the past, but we purchase them for dual purpose so our kids can play with them as well. One good thing that you could create, especially for your kids that need that downtime with their auditory and visual environment, is a quiet corner where there's some soft seating, some dim lighting, maybe headphones and some fidgets so they can kind of decompress if they need to and take some time to regulate themselves. You could also get in the habit of keeping a visual timer and a water bottle nearby because this will give your kids an opportunity to regulate themselves as they need to, and then teach them the green, yellow, red body check-in kind of theme. You can read more about this. I'll link to a couple of resources that you can read about this, but in a nutshell, it's helping your kids understand their body. Green means I'm ready to go. I'm ready to do whatever you need me to do. I can do some math. I could do some reading. We could play a game. We could build. I'm ready and willing. Yellow, I'm a little fidgety. I'm a little slow moving. Not quite ready yet, but I'm getting there. And then red, no, I'm totally overloaded. I'm very dysregulated. So teach your kids to recognize what state their body is in. And using those colors is a really easy way to pinpoint it. Are you green? Are you yellow? Are you red? And then have your kids check in with themselves periodically throughout the day. You could say something like, okay, I'm feeling yellow right now. I'm a little fidgety. I want to take a quick walk around outside to decompress and recenter myself. And then get in the habit of giving the kids a chance to kind of check in with themselves throughout the day. Ask them how they're feeling. Are you green? Are you yellow? Are you red? What kinds of things could we do to get ourselves in the next state that we need to be in so we're ready to go? Or model it for them. Okay, I'm feeling a little yellow right now. I need to regroup. I'm going to take a quick walk around outside, and then we can get started again. You could say to them, okay, we're going to try to move for 1 minute, see how that goes, and then check in and see where we fall. What color is our body feeling right now? And then you can tell them you'll decide the next steps together. Give them some buy-in by allowing them to make some decisions as you're building these sensory diets for them. Okay, let's talk about proprioceptive. The heavy work, this is the everyday superpower for kids who get dysregulated. In fact, it really helps organize your whole system, and it's really safe to use often. Anytime your kids seem dysregulated, seem out of control a little bit, or just not quite ready to go, heavy work is great. When my kids were really little, some of the heavy work that we did often was pushing and pulling like laundry baskets that were full across the floor, lifting and setting down those same laundry baskets. And we had some like soft kind of weights that they could carry. You could do wall push-ups, 10 to 20 slow reps where they're like doing a push-up standing against a wall. Animal walks are great, like a bear crawl, a crab walk, a frog hop. You can carry towels, heavy towels if your kids are littler, from one room to another, or if they're bigger, a laundry basket from one room to another. A book stack push, you could slide a stack of books across the floor. Chair pushbacks, 15 slow pushes against the table to push their chair back. You can make a pillow sandwich. A kiddo lies between pillows and they press the pillows and control what their input is. I have this picture. I'll see if I can dig it up for the show notes. I know it was on my Instagram years and years and years ago, but we were at co-op and it was one of the first times we had been at this co-op, and I think Logan was about 7 at the time. So yeah, about 9 years ago, because she's 16. And she had just had enough. And I found her at the end of lunch on the floor, on her back, in like a starfish position, arms out, legs out, in like the community room at the church that we were using for our co-op. And she had a giant heavy beanbag on top of her. She had dragged it on top of herself, and it was just pushing down on her, and she was just laying there decompressing, like eyes wide, just feeling the weight on her, and it was relaxing. So let them do that with pillows and feel the press and the control that they have there and they need. You can get TheraBands of different weights and put one on a door, loop it around a knob, and they can pull and hold and release the TheraBand. Vacuuming and sweeping is heavy work, and chores count. If it's autumn, they can rake leaves, they can shovel snow. All of these things are really great heavy work. So you could say to them, let's do 10 wall pushes together, slow and strong, and count or have them count. Or you can say, hey, you're the boss of the pressure. Say stop and I'll stop. Do you want a big heavy hug? I can hug and squeeze you. Logan and I used to call them squeezy hugs. And she still will come up to me and say, can I have a hug, or can I have a squeezy hug? So the proprioceptive heavy work that you can put in can be done really anytime you need to regulate. 2 to 5 minutes, repeat as needed throughout the day. And this will organize your kiddo system and help them get to that green state. Okay, the vestibular system, on the other hand, the movement, we really want to handle with care. This has powerful alerting input and can dysregulate if it's overused. So you want to do this in short little increments, like 30 to 60 seconds, and then pause and have them check in with their body. This is one that you want to use if like they're feeling very slow, they need to be alerted. Maybe if they're very, very sluggish, having a hard time getting up in the morning. Isaac and I have been doing something that I heard about just when I was scrolling TikTok one night. We've been doing it in the morning when we feel slow and sluggish, and it's been helping. I saw a video about somebody that had heard from somebody else, presumably on TikTok, about jumping up and down heavy, hard jumps 50 times when they first get up in the morning. And so when Isaac and I are feeling particularly sluggish, we've been trying that. And let me tell you, jumping up and down hard and heavy and moving 50 times in a row really is alerting, and it's been helpful. It's gotten both of us going. But that's not something that I want to do often throughout the day. Some different ideas that you can use if you need some alerting activities or you need to activate the vestibular system is rocking in a sturdy chair, slow and steady and in a linear way. So you don't really want to spin because that can be dizzying, it can be very overwhelming, and can dysregulate our kids. Now, some kids seem to crave spinning. Logan did for a while, but she would always kind of overuse it. And then we'd have to like add in some proprioceptive work to calm her back down. So you really want to watch that spinning. Using a couch cushion as a crash pad is really great for this, for vestibular system activating. We bought a giant beanbag to use as a crash pad years and years ago. I mean, I think, gosh, Logan was probably 5. So we're talking over a decade ago, and it's still being used to this day. They can jump on it, they can land on their feet, they can dive into it, they can fold it into like a pillow squeeze. You can use just couch cushions if you don't have a crash pad like we do, but anything that they can kind of crash into. They could roll like a log on a carpet, or you can kind of like roll them like a burrito into a blanket. They could do bear swings where you're holding their hands and you're kind of like gently swaying them around. You could put painter's tape on the floor and they can use it like a balance beam, and they can go heel to toe, and walk in a line across that balanced tape, that line, the balance line. They can use a mini trampoline if you own it, or a big trampoline. Just jump, counting their jumps, slow and steady again. Or they can do 2-foot jumps like I was talking about with Isaac and I. Count to 20, stop, sip water. Or if you want to get really aggressive like Isaac and I have been, you can do the 50 jumps in the morning if you want to. Some rules of thumb to kind of keep in mind with the vestibular system is try to keep it linear instead of spinning if you can. But if spinning happens, match that spin time with equal calm time and add some heavy work in there after. If there's dizziness, if there's nausea, stop and see what's triggering it, so you could potentially seek help from an occupational therapist or a pediatrician if needed. Some of the things that you can say to your kids when you're working on the vestibular system, you could say something like, okay, we're going to jump 20 times, and then we're going to take a break and we're going to check in with our color and see if we're to green yet. You can say, rock slowly. When I say pause, hug the pillow. And so incorporating a couple different activities too. Again, use caution with the vestibular system. If you kind of overdo it, pull back in the proprioceptive activities and add in some heavy work. Okay, tactile and oral motor activities. Some of the things that we can use for tactile, the touch, you can use Play-Doh or putty and have them knead it through their fingers. This is really good, and we'll talk about it in a few minutes, but it's really good to kind of get them ready for writing activities. You could use a rice or a bean bin where they're, moving things with cups and spoons or playing with little animals in it, especially if they're younger. Sensory bins are great for younger kids. They're very regulating and they give them a lot of tactile input. You could use a dish tub with warm water and sponges. So they're squeezing out the water and they're feeling the texture of the sponge and the feel of the water. You can also, if you've got the time, do like warm baths and play with toys, scooping toys. You can use a shaving cream tray to write letters and practice letters and math facts or things like that. You could use a flour tray or a salt tray for the same reason. You want to check their clothing and make sure their clothing is comfortable. Cut out tags or use tagless ones. Use seamless socks if possible. Compression clothes if your kids are like that tight input. We used to have a body sock that Logan would enjoy putting on sometimes when she was younger, and it just like covered the whole body. And it was fun. All of them really enjoyed getting into it, but she often needed it. Oral motor ideas that you could use, some crunchy or chewy like snacks. So they have different textures and different feels to the foods that they're eating. like maybe a snack basket that has some carrots and some pretzels or some beef jerky. Follow your family's like dietary needs and preferences, but try to have some crunchy and some salty and some chewy and like snappy kinds of different textures to the food. Have sour and salty water or drinks that they can sip with a straw. If they really need the oral input, you can have them drink yogurt through a straw. That gives them, they have to work a little bit harder to pull that in, and sometimes that can be calming for some kids. You can tell them, pick a crunchy or chewy snack to eat while we read, whichever you think sounds good to you right now. Or you can say, hey, we're going to do some hand activities today. Do you want something squishy or do you want something splashy? Your choice. Give them some autonomy, give them some input into the different activities, but always check back in with them, have them check where their body is. Is it green? Is it yellow? Is it red? And have them report back to you, because this is helping them with metacognition. It's helping them think about their thinking, think about their feeling, and kind of like put that all into play and really analyze how these things are working for them so that as they grow, they can kind of create their own sensory menu. All right, the fifth system, the auditory and visual environment. Some of the things that you can put into play for noise, if noise affects your kids, maybe headphones, like noise reducing or over ear, or you could have a white noise maker, like on a rain track. We used to have classical music playing in the background at our house sometimes. Or you can have sound exits if like co-op or church or the library gets too overwhelming because it's too noisy and there's too much going on. Maybe create a signal with your kiddo so they can take a break and you can exit for a little while. Back when my oldest, who's now 22, was going to religious ed classes at our church, we had a really great organizer of our church program, and she really wanted to work with him and help him be successful, but he would get very dysregulated and overwhelmed. And so she worked out a signal with him, and she would walk by his classroom's window periodically. And if he caught her attention with their hand signal, she'd pop in and say, hey, I need to see Trevor for a minute. And they would go for a walk, or she'd take him outside and he'd run some laps, or he'd do some push-ups, and then he'd go back and he'd be fine. So have some exits that the kids can exit signals that the kids can use. A visual plan, if you can at home, and clutter or visual clutter is distracting for your kids, reduce it in at least the line of sight where they'll be working. Use covered bins for the extra things. Use baskets at your home. Consider warm colored bulbs for your lamps or your overhead lighting. And then create a visual schedule, preferably with real photos for kids who prefer that sameness so they know what to expect over time. And then give them a choice. Would you like your headphones, or do you want the lamps on, or do you want them off? Okay, let's hide the busy stuff now so your eyes can rest and you can focus. Give them, again, the input, and always check in and see how their body is doing, what color they are on, and where they're feeling, and if they're ready to go or if they're feeling dysregulated. Okay, so let's talk about math. Specifically, let's talk about finding a program that actually works for your unique homeschoolers. In our house, we've been using CTC Math for years, and even though I am so appreciative that they sponsor this podcast, I am a paying customer. I'm still a paying customer even with their sponsorship, because it's just that good, and I love supporting great companies with great programs. With 2 kids still at home, both with very different learning needs, CTC Math has been the flexible and dependable solution that I keep coming back to. One of my kiddos needs more time to process math concepts, and I love that she can move through the lessons at her own pace without feeling rushed or behind. My other kiddo, he flies. He jumps straight to the end of unit tests to see what he already knows, and then we only focus on the lessons that fill the gaps. That kind of customization is gold when you're homeschooling gifted or twice exceptional kids. CTC Math gives you the access to every grade level, from kindergarten through 12th grade with your subscription, so that your child can accelerate, review, or jump around based on their own needs, not based on some rigid curriculum structure. And because it's video-based with clear instruction and auto-graded lessons and quizzes, it frees me up to support my kids without being chained to a textbook, teacher's manual, or whiteboard. So whether your child needs more time or is racing ahead, you can tailor it all with CTC Math. Check it out at ctcmath.com. You will see why so many homeschool families trust it. And if you've got quirky math learners like I do, I think you're going to love it. If you have any questions about CTC, like I said, we've been using it for years in our homeschool, and I encourage you to reach out and ask me any questions that you have. If you do pop over there, let them know that I sent you, and let them know that you appreciate their ongoing support of homeschoolers everywhere, especially those of you here at Raising Lifelong Learners. All right, let's get back to today's episode. Okay, so how do we build our toolbox? How do we build this sensory menu that we can use, our sensory diet plan that we can use throughout our day? And how do we know when to use it? So the first thing we're going to do is kind of identify the pressure points in our day. Where are the areas in our day where our kids seem the most dysregulated? Again, this is where you really want to be a student of your child. You want to know what trips them up. You want to know what kinds of transition areas are most difficult. And those are the places that first you're going to put some of these activities in based on what they're kind of showing you. So maybe like for us, it's morning wake up and getting going. Anytime we have to do some writing, pre-writing, after lunch, because we're done. We just want to be done. After co-op, oh my gosh, nobody wants to do anything after co-op because we're just all overloaded. And before bedtime, winding down. I was actually just complaining tonight as I'm recording this, right before I started recording it. Nobody's listening to me. You guys just have to go to bed, and I can still hear them upstairs. And it's late, let me tell you. I'm recording this very, very, very late at night. So identify your pressure points and figure out where those are going to be and just target those first. Okay, the next thing you're going to do once you've identified those pressure points, and I'm going to use the same pressure points that I just told you about, just kind of as an example. The wake up, the pre-writing, after lunch, post co-op, and then before bedtime. Identify like 1 to 2 things that you can do that will help your kids get into the green zone. They'll be ready for those times of day. So like if it's morning, you're going to be wanting to do something that's activating and alerting, right? If it's after co-op, you want something that's going to be restful and calming. So you want to kind of identify what you're looking for and what they're going to need to go back to the green space where they want their body. So for example, for wake up, they could do wall pushes and maybe sucking water or yogurt through a straw. If we're talking about the pre-writing pressure point, maybe they can need some Theraputty or some Play-Doh for 1 minute in each hand before they get going, or pass it from hand to hand, squish it between their fingers. They could do 10 chair pushes, and then they can start writing. So they've activated and alerted their body and the parts of their body that they need to have ready to go. After lunch, when they're all feeling calm and like full from eating the yummy lunch that you've prepared, maybe have them do 20 trampoline jumps and have a crunchy snack with a quiet song playing in the background when they do their first activity after lunch. Maybe after co-op, they have over-the-ear headphones, noise-reducing headphones on, and they're rocking in their rocking chair, and maybe have a weighted blanket on their lap if that's something that you have at home for some of that heavy pressure. And then before bed, maybe they take a warm bath, they have some bubbles, so they have some scents in there, and then they dim all the lights and have a lamp and read a book while they're just by lamplight. The next thing that you want to do is you want to post this sensory plan. You want to post this diet so they know some of the things that they can choose to do when they're getting ready for any of those different activities. So you've picked the pressure points, you've identified 1 or 2 things that they could do before each of these things, and then you're going to post it so they can see it, like post it right on the wall of common space, just like you did with your executive function quick start with the now and the next kind of section when we identified what they needed to do and how. You're going to do the same thing with their sensory diet plan. And then they can see at a glance what could help them get back to the point that they need to for this, each of the different kind of pressure points in their evening. Okay, and then as you're getting used to implementing this sensory diet plan, you're going to want to really check in with them. After each activity that they do, each regulatory thing that they've chosen off of their menu, you want to ask them, are you green, yellow, red? Where does your body fit right now? If it's green, begin work. Within 2 minutes, go on to do the thing that you are getting ready to do. If it's yellow, maybe add one more heavy work activity in to try to get them to get closer and closer to green. And then if it's red, stop. Take a break, regulate first. Get them to the point of regulation, figure out what's dysregulating them, and help to find the triggers and find the solutions and get them to regulate. So some of the things you could say to them is pick one heavy work and one calming activity. Or, hey, we're in green. Let's get started while your body feels ready to go. Okay, we have different kids, right? We've talked about before, if you know one neurodivergent kid, you know one. You don't know everybody because every neurodivergent profile is slightly different. Every ADHD kid is as different from each other as they are from the neurotypical population. Every gifted, twice exceptional, anxious, whatever kiddo is just as different from each other as they are from the neurotypical population. And so we need to make sure that we have some troubleshooting ideas for when things don't go well or when we're just not sure what we need to do based on our kid's profile. So let's first just talk briefly about a kiddo who maybe has ADHD, but definitely is movement seeking. They're one of your kids that really just needs a lot of movement and seems to need a lot of input. They also tend to need novelty. We've talked about that before on this podcast. So you can rotate choices and you can gamify it. So rotating choices, just make sure you're changing up the sensory diet regularly or the sensory menu. Make sure that you are rotating your choices regularly. Your kids are choosing different activities to put on their sensory diet plan, or you are, so it keeps being novel for them. And then gamify it. Have them beat the sand timer while they're doing their jumps, or do 10 frog jumps before they do math. Kind of give an element of competition to it so they are more eager to get to it and allow themselves to be helped by the movement. You can keep a movement caddy on hand, keep fidgets in it, therabands, straws, visuals, different things that you can grab on the go, and you have them at your fingertips to help your kiddos who need that movement constantly. Maybe you have a kid who is autistic or seem to be more of a rigid thinker. Maybe they are gifted and very, very much set in their ways, or have any other identified or non-identified challenge that has them prefer sameness. They're a little bit rigid in their thinking. Have something that's predictable. Have a predictable sequence of events, a real photo schedule so they have that visual schedule and they know what to expect. Use the identical tools daily. The same putty, the same straw cup, the same collection of fidgets so they know what to expect. And then have pre-planned swaps. Hey, if your jeans itch you today, you can swap out for a joggers. Have them know ahead of time what some of the switches are going to be if things aren't available. If your kiddo has anxiety or they are argumentative or worrisome or just don't like to try new things, use low demand language. Hey, do you want to try 1 minute of squishing something together with Theraputty, or do you want to try 1 minute of rocking? Do you want to try 20 jumps on the trampoline, or would you rather do 10 bear crawls? Give them a low demand choice and input into what they're choosing. And then always offer an opt-out and a reset route in case they need it. If your kids are struggling with some kind of academic challenge, maybe they have dysgraphia or dyslexia or dyscalculia, maybe with dysgraphia in particular, try pre-writing with like putty, doing chair pushes or like finger push-ups on the wall. Have the first line scribed by you as a parent, and then they can do the next line on their own. If they're struggling with their reading, maybe they can use a ruler with a window so they can follow line by line, or tinted paper, or take oral motor sip breaks in between the different paragraphs that they're reading so they get a break or they can give their mind a break. Okay, if you have a small space or a tight budget, because this is a problem, right? I told you before, we lived in 970 square feet and we had a very tight budget when we were living there. Use what you have. Use the wall Use the chairs that you have at your kitchen table. Use the laundry as a heavy work tool. Use the pillows, the couch cushions, use tape. That does 90% of the job of all of these different activities. And then you can go to the library. You can use the swings and the park on good days. You can rake up and then jump in a pile of leaves instead of a crash pad. Your crash pad can just be a bunch of comforters shoved into a duvet cover. There are lots of ways to work with what you have. You don't have to add things. I will put, like I said, tools that we've purchased over the years for just different birthday presents or Christmas presents and have kind of done double duty as occupational therapy tools. Okay, a couple more things that you might run into. Maybe your kiddos are overamped. They were spinning a lot, or you were having them rock back and forth on the swing, but they kept like twisting the swing because they wanted it to spin one way and spin the other way. I used to love doing that. Switch to some heavy work. Do deep breaths. Drink some water. Avoid further vestibular input that day. Try to get them calmed down by switching to heavy work. If there's refusal, your kids are just refusing to do anything and they're feeling very anxious about it, offer bounded choices. So that means 2 options. Not, do you want to do math today? Would you rather start with math or reading your book? Would you rather read the book silently to yourself or have me read a line and then you read a line and take turns? Would you rather do your math by yourself or have me do the writing for you and you solve the problem? Give them bounded choices, usually with only 2 options, and then shorter periods of time, just 30 to 60 seconds of input with each of the different choices. Maybe it's too messy and your kids are just getting out of control, or you are having a day where you just can't handle the mess. Pick a water tub or a warm bath. Pick putty instead of like a sand tray or shaving cream. Do the bins, the sensory bins in the bathtub for easy cleanup or outside. I used to make sensory bins out of bird seed and have the kids play with them in the front yard. So whatever spilled, the birds would just eat. So find different ways that you can contain the mess or put the mess somewhere else. Maybe the siblings are derailing the kiddo who's struggling. Stagger their turns with you. Give them something to do in a different room while you work with the kid who needs to focus, and then vice versa. Rotate your time with each of the kids or rotate the start times. Color code the tools your kids are using. Maybe put them in opposite corners or opposite rooms. Do the best that you can. Sometimes I'll send one out to swing in the backyard while I'm working with one in the house, and then vice versa. But you just need to do the best that you can. And then if any of your kids are struggling with their sensory diet, they're feeling headachy or dizziness, or they seem to just keep getting dysregulated, definitely stop trying to figure it out at home and consult with an occupational therapist. Like I said, occupational therapists are worth their weight in gold. If you're not sure where to begin, go peruse Sarah's site at homeschoolot.com. Set up a consultation with her. She's great. Join the Learners Lab so you have access to her once a month, included in your membership, or go see somebody at a local, talk to your pediatrician about a referral, or call your local hospital system and see what pediatric occupational therapists are available for consults. You don't have to do this alone. I just want you to remember that seeking additional help isn't failure. It's success. It's empowering, and it's getting your kids the help that they need. So you can do all the work you're able to do, but then know when you're struggling or you need more, and then seek the help that's out there. If you ever need support in that, or you need to kind of know, or you're worried about, how to talk to somebody about it, or you just don't know. Maybe I don't need an occupational therapist. Maybe I need a pediatrician. Maybe I need a child psychologist or a therapist. You can set up a brief consultation with me. There's resources for coaching over on my website, and you can set up a time with me and we can talk about that, and I can help get you started. Maybe I can help you. I'm not an occupational therapist or a doctor, but I am a coach. I'm a parent coach. I'm a homeschool coach. I am a gifted and twice exceptional coach. So I can help you come to conclusions on your own and figure out what would work best for your kiddo by talking you through and getting to know you and your kids. And so you can work with me, you can work with Sarah, she's amazing. You can work with within your local hospital system, whatever your insurance will cover. But don't avoid getting help because you feel like you're failing. Getting help is success. It's really good when you need it. Okay, so I've thrown all this information at you about the sensory systems, about sensory diet, about how to get the input you need in the different areas, and about how to kind of tailor it for some of the different profiles of kids you might have at home. So what are we going to do from here? First, I would encourage you to just come up with your own, if you want to use index cards, and create what I was talking about, your sensory diet plan, your pressure points, and 1 or 2 activities that you can do for each of those pressure points, and post it somewhere you can see it. Or if you don't want to come up with it on your own, I have a free download, a home sensory diet planner that you can go over to the show notes for this episode or any of the episodes in this upcoming 5-episode series and download it so you have it and you don't have to kind of recreate the wheel. The planner and some suggestions are there for you, along with a place for you to record your pressure points and kind of what happens along those pressure points. So you can get that over at raisinglifelonglearners.com/podcast on any of the podcasts that relate to this sensory series. Choose one specific pressure point to focus on. Definitely set up your planner. Definitely come up with 1 or 2 for each of the pressure points, but choose one you really want to improve over the next 7 days. And create 2 moves, 2 choices, menu choices, that you want to use at that pressure point. 1 heavy and 1 calming. So 1 proprioceptive and 1 of the others that's going to be calming to their system, and run it daily for 7 days. Okay? So make sure you're really focusing on that one. You can do the others too, but don't miss a day of that one. And then every single day, check in. Are we feeling green, yellow, red? Do we need more? Do we need less? Don't adjust right away. Adjust on day 4. Give it a couple days, and if you're still not getting to green, add another activity, change out one of the activities, and adjust. Your success metric to see if this one pressure point has improved over 7 days is that you can begin the next task within 2 minutes for at least 5 to 7 days. Okay, so let's say the pressure point you pick is getting started on that first school subject after waking up in the morning. Okay, so you're going to do 1 like proprioceptive, heavy work, or actually 1 alerting and then maybe 1 calming. So if I were to do my morning one, I would choose jumping up and down 20 times and drinking yogurt through a straw. And so we would do that. And then success would be 5 out of 7 days being able to get started on work within 2 minutes of finishing that. Now, don't beat yourself up if you only hit 2 of the 7 days at the end of 7 days, because we're just getting started, okay? And that just means you need to tweak it and keep working at it. But create your plan and keep working at it. Over the next 4 weeks, we're going to hit different areas, including sound. Like we're gonna pinpoint different challenges that our kiddos might have, including sound sensitive challenges, kids with like co-op and church and like scouts or other activities, clothing battles, movement needs when you're stuck inside, like on rainy or bad weather days, and then picky eating, like texture and mealtime. So we're going to hit those specifically over the next 4 weeks, but we're going to keep revisiting our sensory diet plan. Okay, so download that sensory diet planner and give yourself the challenge of 1 pressure point over the next 7 days and seeing how you do. So I want you to go over to raisinglifelonglearners.com/podcast and download the free home sensory diet planner and start getting ready. Plan your menu over the next couple of days so you can start fresh on Monday or start tomorrow. Whenever you're listening to this, the podcast episode airs on a Wednesday, start on Thursday, go Thursday to Thursday, or wait till the next Monday if you want to plan it out, whichever you want to do, but get it ready and make it visible. And then if you're a member of the Learners Lab and you're listening, come share your 7-day results in the lab. We're going to start a couple threads over the next couple of weeks that focus on sensory, but we've got a thread going for sensory wins right now. So find that. Just scroll through your feed, find the thread about what are some of your sensory wins, and post your 7-day results. Okay, next time we're going to talk about picky eating. Next time we're going to talk about sound sensitivity and things like that, and sensory first solutions without the power struggles. This is going to be fun. I'm really excited for you because I will tell you, when we started bringing home some of the strategies and using them on a daily basis, our homeschool got better. Now, did it solve all the problems? Absolutely not. We're dealing with children, neurodivergent children at that. And so there's always going to be steps ahead and steps behind, and that's okay. But this really, really helps. And you're going to see improvement. So I'm really excited for you. And I can't wait to hear what successes you have. If you're not a member of the Learners Lab, join us. There's no risk. You can cancel at any time. If you join month to month, you can cancel after a month if you don't want to continue. And if you join at the annual rate to save some money, you get a 30-day money-back guarantee. So there's really no risk. And then if you join month to month, you can always change your subscription over to an annual plan if you decide that you want to stick with it. So again, no risk. And you can share your successes, get some troubleshooting ideas in there with the parents in the forum, and just get some inspiration for other things. If you aren't able to join or don't think it's for you at this time, no problem. Use the podcast, use the resources here, and then tag me on social media or DM me on social media and let me know what successes you've had over the next 7 days, because I still want to hear you. And if you're not a member of the Learners Lab, share with me anyway. You don't have to be in order to share your successes. I want to know what's going on. I want to know what's successful for you in life. So tag me on social media, DM me, and let me know what successes you're having. All right, we'll be back same time, same place next week. Thanks again to Night Zookeeper for helping us out and supporting us and sponsoring us all this time. We really appreciate all of their support. Check them out at ctcmath.com, and I will see you soon. Bye for now.